Hello students, welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. In today's session, we are going to discuss about how to approach geography for preparation in UPSC Civil Service Examination, both from the prelims perspective as well as from the mains perspective. So let us start this session. Now, first of all, if we talk about geography, if we talk about what is geography all about, so geography refers to, it is made up of basically two terms here. One is geo means earth, and then other word is graphias. Graphias is basically a Latin word that means knowledge, or we can also say understanding. That means, in simple term, if we have to define geography, we can define it as a study or knowledge or understanding about the earth in totality. So first question that comes into the mind of aspirants is, why do we have to study geography for the UPSC examination? How this subject is going to help once you are clearing the examination and joining any of the services that is listed under your civil services. So for example, if we talk about, if you become an IAS officer, just for example, and you have been given the charge of a particular district. Now, in that case, the concepts, the learning which you have done in geography will come very, very handy to you. For example, if we talk about disaster itself, so we know that different parts of India are prone to different kind of disasters. For example, if we have North India, that is prone to earthquake related disaster. Second, we have to talk about the coastal areas. In the eastern coast, the region is prone to cyclones. So this is one example from disaster perspective. Other, also you talk about resource management. For example, in many parts of India, we have a scarcity of water. We have different cropping pattern. So the understanding of this is very much required if you want to discharge and perform your duties effectively as a district collector or district magistrate. So obviously geography is one of the subjects which will not only help you in clearing the examination in the first stage, but also will help you in performing your duties as any officer of any of the services given under the civil service examination. So let us try to understand that what is the best approach if you want to study geography. Now, before understanding the approach, we should try to familiarize ourselves with the syllabus of geography. So in that case, if you look at the syllabus of given by the UPSC, so as we know, we have two papers. One is the prelims examination. We have general studies one, paper one, where the questions are of multiple choice in nature. So here, if you look at the syllabus, if you pay close attention, it is this point where the geography related topics are mentioned. And here we have, we talk about environment ecology, and then here we have the Indian and world geography, where we have to study about four different aspect of geography. One is the physical aspect, then we have the social aspect, then we have the economic aspect of geography, both from India's perspective as well as from the world's perspective. So we have to study for prelims paper also both geography, Indian geography as well as the world geography. Now, in this regard, if we try to look at the mains examination paper or mains examination syllabus, it has similar kind of syllabus as well there. For example, if you look at here what do we have in the mains? In mains, overall geography syllabus can be divided into four parts. So first we have is the salient feature of world's physical geography. So here we have to talk about salient features. Features means there can be mountains, there can be plateaus, we have plains, we have valleys. So all different kind of physical features that we have on the earth. Basically in this point, we have to study the geography of the world at the continental level. That means UPSC is not expecting you to go at each of the countries scale and then try to find out the physical features, study the physical features. For example, if you talk about the Africa as a continent, so no one is expecting you to go to and study the physical features of Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, like this. What you can say particularly, what we have to focus upon is the physical features of the entire African continent. For example, what are the major mountains of Africa? These mountains are which kind of mountains, the concept that you have learned in the geomorphology section, and then also the location of these mountains. Then we have major lakes are there in Africa, major rift valleys are there in Africa, major volcanoes are there in Africa. So whatever Physical features you will learn in the geomorphology part of the geography, which we'll discuss later. That physical feature you have to have the understanding of their location more specifically on a continental scale. However, if you talk about India, obviously in India you have to study at a regional scale as well. That means you can divide India into North India, West India, South India, East India, Northeast India, like that, and then focus on the physical features like mountains, plateaus, valleys, rivers, and all this at a local scale. Then once we complete the physical geography, then you can see the topic mentions about the economic geography. In economic geography, if you look at the syllabus, it is distribution of key natural resources across the world, including South Asia and the Indian subcontinent. And then related to that same topic, we have the other topic that talks about the factors that is responsible for the location of primary, secondary, and tertiary sector industries in various parts of the world, including India. So, in this aspect, if we try to simply classify it, we have to study two things in economic geography. One is, we can say, resources and their distribution across the world. Now, resources can be many, but we have to focus on the major resources. For example, mineral resources, we have energy resources. Mineral resources, we have iron ore, we have bauxite, we have copper, we have oil and gas, and similarly, we'll have the energy resources such as coal, and similar type of major resources we have to focus upon, especially their location, how they are distributed across the world. And this is something I will suggest you not have to study it specifically first, because related to that same topic we have the location factor for industries. Now, location factor for industries means that what are the factors that are responsible for the location of any particular industry in any particular part or region of the world. So obviously, as you know, the main purpose of industries is to process the raw materials, and most of the time what are these raw materials? These raw materials are nothing but your resources themselves. So basically industries are converting these resources, raw material, into some meaningful product which can be used by the consumers for some sort of end purposes. So once you are able to understand the location factor, there one very important factor that comes is what we can call as raw materials. So when you're talking about the raw materials, the distribution part can be covered here as well. That means you do not have to focus specifically the distribution of the raw materials, resources across the world, and then go on and study the location factor. You can do at the same time all these topics together. So that will be your economic geography. Now, if we talk about the third and one of the most important part of geography syllabus, from where every year at least question has been continuously asked either in the prelims examination or the mains examination. So these basically deals with the important geophysical phenomena. Geophysical phenomena, what kind of geophysical phenomena you have to study about? So we have earthquakes, we have tsunami, we have volcanic activity, cyclone, and there UPSC has not specified that only these four natural disasters or geophysical phenomena can be asked. They have clearly mentioned the term ETC. ETC refers to that, for example, if any other kind of natural disasters or geophysical phenomena has struck the world in past 1 or 2 years before your examination, then questions based on that can also be easily asked. For example, it was year 2016 when you have very severe flooding in many cities of India such as Chennai, Mumbai, and thus if you look at the question paper of 2017 examination, you have the question that has been asked on the urban flooding. So that is what we can talk about, that whenever you have any major natural disasters either striking India or any other part of the world, you have to focus on that as well. However, these four, earthquake, tsunami, volcanic activity and cyclone, is something that you have to study in more detail, understanding the concepts, why all these phenomena, geophysical phenomena happens, where do these geophysical phenomena happens, where there is a high possibility of such phenomena to happen, and what is the impact, what is the management aspect the government has focused upon to minimize the, what we can say, minimize the catastrophe related to such disasters, such phenomena. And then also what we have to understand here is geographical features and their changes in changes in critical geographical features, including water bodies and ice cap. For example, this aspect is directly related to your climate change topic. So here you will be taking the help of the concepts that you will learn in the environment and biodiversity section as well. So overall what we can understand is the preparation of UPSC we talk about, it is not about preparing in silo. That means you cannot prepare geography separately, economy separately, polity separately, understand, and natural this disaster management, or we talk about the environment and diversity. There is a very strong interlinkages among the topics of each of the subject. So wherever such interlinkages exist, that is where you have to try to understand that how questions can be framed, because many times you have a single question, but in the single question you have the concept of environment, you have the concept of natural disasters, you have the core concept of geography as well. So interlinking becomes very, very important, especially in such topic. So that is what we have to study about. And finally, what are the effects of changes that happen in the flora and fauna, and the effect of such changes that is related to climate change. So that is what we have to study overall, both from the prelims perspective as well as from the mains perspective. So this is about talking about the syllabus. Now, if you just focus on these terms, it becomes very difficult to understand that which topics to study, which chapter to study, which chapter to skip, for example in NCERTs and all that. So that is why, from our own understanding of looking at the question paper of last, we can say 10 years from the in the mains and prelims examination of UPSC, we can classify the syllabus into more easy terms. So let us try to look at those as well. So first of all, if we try to classify geography broadly, we can classify as per our syllabus it into four parts. That is, the first one we have is the physical geography, second is human geography, third is economic geography, and the fourth is the Indian geography. Now, though we have classified the entire geography into four sections, it does not mean that all these four sections are equally important, especially if you look at the trend of question paper from last 10 or 12 years. So what is important here? If you look at the weightage that is given by UPSC, we can understand the physical geography section is the most important sections. Why we are talking about this like so? The simple reason is that this is the part of geography which is very, very conceptual in nature. That means to have understanding about any topic, whether it is related to Indian geography or economic geography, the concept of physical geography should be crystal clear. And that is why both from the in the prelims examination as well as the mains examination, you will see questions from physical geography are asked almost every year. So if we talk about in terms of preference, or in which part of geography you have to pay more attention or give more time, it should be definitely the physical geography part. And to study this part, basically we talk about that what this part consists of, we can look at that overall this physical geography you can further divide into four sections. That is, we have geomorphology, then we have the climatology, then we have the oceanography, and then we have the climatic regions of the world. So these are the four topics that we have to study here. Now, how to prepare these topics? So for example, if we talk about geomorphology, now in this regard, the best way to start is obviously NCERTs. Now next question comes that which class NCERTs should be referred for preparation of these topics. So my answer will be that depending on person to person it varies. For example, if someone has background in, for example, in graduation in the arts stream, so obviously geography will be something that will be much more familiar to him or her. But if someone has studied geography, for example, in class 10, and almost 7-8 years has passed since he has touched the geography last, so obviously for him I will suggest that you can refer to even lower classes NCERT. That means you can start with class 8 NCERTs. In class 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12. Total 5 classes of NCERTs you can refer to for preparation of these 4 topics, basically geomorphology, climatology, oceanography and climatic regions. However, what I will suggest that do not read each NCERTs one by one. For example, do not first complete 8 NCERT, then 9, then 10 and 11 and 12. That is not the right approach. What basically I would suggest you to do is, for example, take the NCERTs, all these 4-5 NCERTs together, look at their index. Now, if you look at their index, what you will have? You will have a lot of different chapters. For example, class 8 NCERT will have certain chapter, class 9 NCERT will have certain chapter, 10, 11, 12 and so. So if you look closely, what you will find that there are a lot of similarities in the topics that we have that has been covered in class 8, class 10th and class 12th. Similarly, you have lot of similarities in NCERTs of class 9th, 11, and then lower if you go to class 7. So what you should do is focus on one chapter. For example, if suppose, for example, chapter is the structure of the earth, or chapter is about, suppose, the structure of the earth's atmosphere. So what you can do, first refer to the topics related to the chapter from the lower classes, then go to from class 8 to class 10th, for example, from class 10th to class 12th, for example. And thus what you should do is focus on completing one topic rather than completing separate books of NCERTs. Once you complete those topics, gradually what will happen, first you have read those topics in a lower classes NCERT, that is much more easier to understand. Then what will happen, you will move to the higher classes in CRTs. There it becomes slight complex in nature, that means you have to contribute or give more time to understand the concept. And then finally you will go to class 11th in CRTs. That is what we have to most focus upon, because the questions in examination, prelims and mains are or have been asked directly and indirectly from class 11th NCERTs. Now here also, just reading the NCERTs, understand the concepts of NCERTs is not enough as per the current trend of examination. For example, in geomorphology, if you are studying any chapter of NCERTs, what we have to focus upon, three things are there. First, obviously, you have to give the first reading. In first reading, just try to understand how much you can take in. Do not focus upon like overexerting yourself to understand that all the things that are given there you need to understand in first reading. That is not possible. So first, in first reading, just try to understand as much as you can. If 30-40% you are understanding, that is well enough. Then after that, in second reading, try to understand more deeply the concepts, the terms that is something new for you. In geographical terms are there, try to understand them in more detail. In third reading, you can try to then even go beyond NCERTs, because many times what do we have in NCERTs, you have the boxes are there, for example, in some chapters. Now in these boxes some interesting information is given. However, for example, if suppose some fact is written in this box, your duty is not just to memorize this fact. What you have to do is you have to go beyond these facts. You have to try to find that, for example, if statement is given in NCERTs of class 11th that Brahmaputra river takes a U-turn after entering into India. That is the only fact that is mentioned. Now, if you look at the question that has been asked on that topic, the question was that why does the Brahmaputra river takes U-turn? So, NCERTs should be your basis and basic books, and the information that is given in NCERTs, you have to try to go much more deeper into that information, try to find out the why and how aspects of those information and those facts. That is something you do in the third and fourth time, and then later once you are done with all this, you can finally do a proper revision with all the concept that you have learned, with all the definitions that you have learned, the why, how and what aspect of all the facts that are mentioned in NCERT. So that is how you have to prepare both all these four topics here, that is geomorphology, climatology, oceanography and climatic region. So that is the first part. Next, if we talk about the second part, is what we can say is the economic geography, that we already have discussed, that how we have to prepare the economic geography. Here we have basically three chapters: resources we have discussed, location factor we have discussed, finally we have the industrial region. So obviously once you understand the industries and their location factors, it will be much more easier to understand that which region of India has higher number of industries, where we have agglomeration and concentration of industries, and why it is so. So basically this is linked to this and this is linked to this, and that is why this location factor is serving as interlinkages between the first chapter and the third chapter. So that is why I am saying you that you have to focus more on the second part. And even if you look at the mains examination, every year at least one questions UPSC has been asking without fail from this location factor. So economic geography, this is more than enough to do. Then next is Indian geography. Now Indian geography is very interesting. Why it is interesting? Because what UPSC is doing these days is, if you look at the prelims examination, most of the questions are being asked on the Indian geography, while if you look at the mains examination, most of questions are being asked either from the physical geography or some questions from the economic geography. That means when you are preparing for Indian geography, the approach should be different from physical geography. Why? Because in physical geography you have to understand the concepts as well as you have to practice the answer writing as well. However, if you look at the Indian geography, some questions are mostly asked in the prelims examination. What you have to focus upon is obviously learning of the facts, because Indian geography have a lot of facts informations are there. Basically, this entire topic, entire subject is loaded with the facts information about India. So you have to learn those facts, and also you have to solve as many MCQs as possible. Because the problem is that if you learn or if you are reading any book, for example, NCERT is class 11 for Indian geography. Now, no matter how many times you read, you will not be able to retain the information, and that is why solving MCQs becomes very, very critical here. Because I would suggest at least solving before the actual examination, you should give at least 15 to 20 mock tests related to the geography. In that, 10 to 12 mock tests should be related to Indian geography. Because here so many facts are there, unless and until you solve MCQs, you will not understand that which areas are what you have to focus upon. For example, you will not understand that which are your weak areas, which are your strong area, which topics are there where you have to give more time, which topics are there where you have to give lesser time. So by give like what I'll say, that in the beginning you have to go through once through the entire book of NCERTs related to this particular chapters. The second time you can do the revision, and third time you should not try to revise by reading the books notes or something like that. The third and fourth revision should directly should be related to the solving of as many MCQs, as many mock tests as possible. And then depending on where you are scoring less in those mock tests, you can go and again revise that particular topic from your notes or from the NCERT books. That is the correct approach of, or very good approach of, Indian geography in the examination. So here, as we can see, overall 5 chapters are there. Physiographical regions of India, for example. Now, physiographical regions of India is something, the question is directly asked on the basis of map. For example, if you are studying this chapter, you cannot just do rote learning or memorizing by reading the text and all these things. So you have to focus on the map of India as well. And for that, the best source should be your Oxford School Atlas. That means whenever you are starting Indian geography, you should always keep atlas along with yourself. Example, in physiographical regions, you are studying about Himalayas, let's say. So just studying about Himalayas, reading about Himalayas is not enough. You have to look at the map of Himalayas in the atlas. You have to look at the different ranges of Himalayas. You have to look at their location, the number of states through which the Himalayas are passing through, right? What is the major peaks of the Himalayas, where these major peaks are situated, what are the major passes of Himalayas. So all this becomes very easier if you are looking at the atlas, looking at the map. Then you will be able to basically retain this information for a longer period of time. And this has actually been established by the scientific studies as well, that if you have two options, one looking at the picture and one looking at the text, the human mind is able to retain the pictorial information for a longer period of time as compared to the textual information that they have read. So studying and preparing this part of geography with atlas is very, very important. Same is for the river system, soils, natural vegetation and climate of India. The role of atlas is very, very important here. You have to understand that how these different themes vary in India, how the soils of India varies from one region to the region, why the climate of India is varying from one region to the region. Now, once you are done with study and revision of these topics, in the last, what you have to do, you have to try to interlink, because Indian geography interlinking becomes very, very critical. It is why I am saying this, because the physical region of India is determining your river system. Your river and the flow of water, availability of water is determining what we can say is your natural vegetation. Similarly, the climate of India is something that is determining your soils of India. As well as the climate is also determining the physiographical region, and the physiographical region is determining your climate. So a lot of interlinkages you will find here. If you are done with 2 to 3 revision, 2 to 3 iterations, then 4 to 5th time try to see that how we can overlap the maps of India, how we can overlap the map of climate of India with the map of soils of India, how we can overlap the map of soil of India with the related natural vegetation of India, and thus it will become very easier in the last if you are able to do so. That is about the Indian geography. Now, after this, if you look at the books that we have to refer, So as we discussed, the physical geography part where we have geomorphology, climatology, oceanography and the climatic region, the fundamentals of physical geography, that is the textbooks for class 11. That is what you have to refer. That is textbooks for class 11. Here again, what I will suggest is at least you should go through this first chapter. Now this first chapter is not something from where question is directly asked, but this chapter is very critical if you have to have overall understanding of what geography is all about. Without reading this chapter in detail, without understanding this chapter, the what you can say is your interest in the topic will not develop or might not develop. So once you are done with this, then you can refer to these chapters. Now here again, all these chapters are not equally important, because if you look at the previous year trend of question that has been asked, the question number chapter number 5 and 6, very less number of question has been asked in last 10 years. So this is something that you can basically, what you can say, put at a put for the later stages. Climate is very important here, water part is very important, and then obviously the second, third and fourth. So 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, these are the main chapters that you have to go through multiple times to have a clear cut understanding about the this physical geography of the world. Once you are done with that, then for the second topic, we have the Indian geography as we have discussed. So physical geography, then Indian geography, that is the most important topic of the geography. So here also what you have to refer to is India's physical environment, that is again class 11th textbook for geography. Now here also, if you look at that, India location, here again, basically when you are talking about these chapters, reading about these chapters, you have to focus on the map of India. Then physiography becomes very important. Climate, natural vegetation, drainage system, that is the river system you have. And then obviously in the GS3, you have to study about the disaster management as well. So for the basic concepts of those disaster, you can refer to this chapter 6 of class 11 NCERT. So that will be related to your Indian geography. Then after that, next if we talk about now human geography, it is what we can say that depending on the question or looking at the questions how they have asked, this is the least important topic, least important part of the geography, because number of questions both in prelims examination has been very less. And also what is the problem in this chapter, in this topic, is that this is very dynamic kind of topic. That means to talk about the population, for example. Now population related data are there, statistics are there, they're continuously being updated. So I would suggest that referring to these facts, data, information is not something you have to focus upon by reading the NCERTs. You have to try to learn the concepts. For example, the human geography related terms are there that you can basically take from the NCERTs, this class 12 NCERTs. Try to learn the concepts, learn the terms. But as far as the data, facts and figures are concerned, focus on the recently released report of two entities. One, we can look at the population related report that is released by United Nations, or we can also basically focus upon the report that is released by the government of India. For example, census figures are there. So for example, major data, you have to focus on the figures that are presented to us by the last census. Or for example, if Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation is there, that is one Ministry of Government of India, if they have come with certain data related to population, migration, sometime in the economic survey report that is released annually, there also you'll find many important interesting data related to population, migration and that. So focus on those reports for recent data. Concept, that is what you have to learn from the NCERTs, nothing more than that. Do not focus upon the data's information, in fact, that is given here. It is very outdated in nature. And then after last, as we have discussed about the economic what you can say, the class 12th book is there, that is called India, People and Economy. So in India, People and Economy, the resources part is something that you have to cover here. So I will suggest that unit 3, that is 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th chapter is very important. And then again the population related information and facts and concepts you can learn from there. So 1, 3, 4, 5 and 6, these are the only relevant topics, relevant chapters for the examination. Chapter number 7, 8, 9 or chapter number 2nd, it is not in the syllabus as well. Question are not being asked from these topics. So do not unnecessarily go and read these topics. Only 1, 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th. That is all. Now, once you are done with the 4 major NCERTs, that class 11th 2 NCERTs we have, physical geography, Indian geography, class 12 2 NCERTs we have just discussed. Once you are done with all that, once you have done 2 or 3 times reading of these books, once you have solved certain number of MCQs, mock tests, in last what I would suggest is you can refer to another very important book, that is the Certificate Physical and Human Geography by G.C. Leong. Now though this book is very old, there are a lot of important facts, concepts are there that you can learn from this book. Basically in this book you have two parts. Part 1 is there and part 2 is there. Now if you remember, in the beginning of the session we have discussed that in the physical geography we have 4 sections: geomorphology, climatology, oceanography and climatic region. So the climatic region part that we have to study, that can solely be done from the part 2 of the same book. You have one chapter dedicated to each of the climatic regions of the world, and whatever information fact are given there, that are more than enough to answer the question, the kind of question that is being asked in the UPSC examination. So I would strongly suggest refer to part 2 of the G.C. Leong book for tackling the climatic region related issues and climatic related region related topics and questions. In part 1, what we have to do in part 1? In part 1 basically you not have to read the entire chapter or all the chapters. What you have to do is refer to the NCERT's book, and whatever themes, whatever topics are given in NCERTs, try to find out the related topics that are given in part 1 of this book. If those topics are there, then only refer to the topics that are overlapping with GC Leong and NCERTs. If anything else extra is given in GC Leong, that is not in UPSC syllabus, not relevant so much from UPSC perspective, because this book has been written for the, what we can say, graduation related, we can say, syllabus. So NCERTs, topics that are given in NCERTs, look in part 1 of GC Leong. The overlapping topics are there, that is only what you have to cover here. And second part you have to cover in entirety, because that is a separate topic of climatic region. So that is how we can approach and try to start our preparation, streamline our preparation for geography from the prelims perspective, for the prelims as well as for the mains examination. So that is all about this particular session. In the today at 2:30 you will have another session about how to approach political science and international relations as an optional, how we have to tackle that, so we can prepare that topic in more detail.